Thank you for tuning in to Leroy Brown Talk Show. As always, it's a pleasure to be able to do this. If you're watching us from Facebook right now and you're tuning in to Leroy Brown Talk Show, I am rocking some South Carolina gear. I have a South Carolina hat with the throwback 80s style Letterman jacket. It's not like it's blizzarding cold outside, but I thought I would rock it with it being 75. So we're just gonna dive right into this. Laquana Ross lost her dad, and she noticed something was wrong with her father when he flinched as she held his hand. It was swollen. That was just the beginning of the injuries. Ross says she surveyed in horror earlier this month at the VA hospital in Georgia. A photo shows 74-year-old Joe Marlboro's shirt pulled up and revealed the red bumps clustered on his stomach, evidence of more than 100 bites from the ants that filled his room in a veterans nursing home, his daughter told local news station WSB TV. The ceiling, the walls, the beds, they were everywhere, Ross said. Ross claimed that the hospital staff told her they thought their patient died when they found him covered in insects days earlier, according to WSB TV. Within a day, Ross visited. She had just gotten back from a trip she says she had. Ross says her father served in the Air Force during the Vietnam War and that Marable deserved better than what he got in his final days at the Eagles Nest Community Living Center, part of the Atlanta VA Medical Center in Decatur, Georgia. I absolutely agree. It doesn't matter if you were in Vietnam, World War II, Korea, Panama, Grenada, the Persian Gulf, OIF, OEF. The fact that the Veterans Affairs is a joke of a healthcare system compared to what everyone else gets. And when I say that, I personally have VA healthcare, but I also have TRICARE Prime for Life. And I was shocked when I found out when I retired that VA comes first. Well, that's not what I want in my life. I want to have good health care. I fought for it. I didn't, serve my country so that my country could throw me away at the end of the day. And a lot of veterans feel that way. To sit here and think that, the VA is a great system. It was back in the late 40s, early 50s when Eisenhower appointed Omar Bradley. It has fallen tremendously, and I know the VA is doing its best to combat the situation, but the simple truth is, I'm gonna give you one little quick story, and I'll leave out my doctor's name because I don't want to get sued by her. But I had a doctor, and the VA was prescribing me diazepam. That's Valium for those of you who don't know it. And the Army had me on diazepam before the VA put me on it. And I started taking diazepam back in like 2009. And then when I retired in October of 2014, the VA kept up my Army medications. So fast forward 2016. I'd been taking this medication for 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 8 years. 8 years every day. And the doctor that I had at Charlie Norwood said, well, I know you've been taking it for 8 years, and it's a highly addictive narcotic because it's Valium, but I'm going to cut you off cold turkey. Your medication wears out tomorrow. We're supposed to refill it, and we're not going to refill it because benzos are bad, and you don't need to take it anymore. Yeah, you wouldn't do that to anyone else. I don't care, who you are. You're not going to take someone off of their medication they've been taking for 8 years and and just magically expect them not to have withdrawals. Which, I mean, I did. I mean, I was going up there almost every day, every week, asking for them to get me something because, my heart was going through my chest and, I'm sweating, I'm looking like a junkie. And, my healthcare professional team was just ignore me. I had a terrible doctor, and I said some things I shouldn't have said in the VA as I was walking out, and another staff member had heard me, and her name just happened to be Dr. Jones. And Dr. Jones pulled me into her office, asked me what was going on. I told her what was going on, and her and Dr. Browning at the Augusta Charlie Norwood downtown actually ended up taking care of me. But I had a terrible doctor before those two. And had it not been for Dr. Jones, I'd have been another statistic where, I went off. I mean, this is practically what I was planning on doing, is going in the parking lot and not coming home that day, if you get what I'm saying. And luckily, the person that I saw at Charlie Norwood was willing to do her job. And we need to find staff members at every veterans facility of people who take pride in serving those who served them. And I mean that because so many veterans before me and so many veterans after me are still going to be serving those future VA doctors while they're in grade school, junior high, high school, college, med school. And the doctors need to realize that, these are your heroes. You need to treat them with respect. You need to take care of them. You need to listen to your patients. You need to listen to your patients' families, because especially the wives or the husbands of that particular veteran. Being in the Army, I knew as a platoon sergeant, as a team leader, that the foundation of every soldier, every paratrooper, was his home. If he was taken care of at the house, he would perform outstandingly in his unit. And most wives know what's going on behind the closed doors. So when you have a wife that's up there, or a husband that's up there saying, yeah, he or she is doing this, he or she is acting this way, and then you ignore them, and the first thing you say is, well, I see that you said you drink when there's fireworks. Well, that has nothing to do with this. Well, that's what we're saying it does. Moving on from the VA, we're going to talk about Iran real quick. So, Iran warns of retaliation against the U.S. against actions as Trump asks for increased sanctions amid the Saudi tensions. Iran on Wednesday warned that it would immediately retaliate against the United States if Tehran is targeted over crippling weekend attacks on the Saudi oil facilities. The threat, which is sent via the Swiss embassy in Tehran, also condemned the remarks made by Secretary of State Mike Pompeo and other high-ranking U.S. officials suggesting Iran was behind the move. Pompeo accuses Iran of unprecedented attacks after drones hit Saudi oil facilities. Iran's response will promote a strong, and it may include a broader areas than the source of attacks, Iran's Mehr News Agency reported. Tehran's Far News Agency added that the response would be rapid and crushing. The warning came shortly before President Trump tweeted that he had ordered the Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin to substantially increase the sanctions imposed on Iran. Here's the thing I do want to talk about when it comes to Iran. Iran got away with so much under the former president. You would have never seen the Navy have their toys taken away from them and lose a ship like we had under any other president. The Navy's motto is "Don't give up the ship." Yet they gave up their ship back in what was it, 2014, 15, because our sailors were told not to engage them. Every other commander in chief and the former commander in chief, it's if they get within 300 feet, 300 yards, engage. It's our vessel, it's our territory, you're on it. They should know better. Iran, I'm going to tell you right now, if you think for a second that the middle area of the president has been removed, you're mistaken. This is the one president, and I'll back Clinton and Bush up on this one, along with Reagan. Anytime we were threatened, they didn't have a problem just destroying the threat. You're playing with fire, Iran. We have a greater military. We have greater troops, greater weapons. This is not the time to sit there and act like your caliphate is going to scare anybody, because it's not. Oh, man. I cannot stand it when Iran runs their mouth. The Trump administration also revoked California's authority to set auto mileage standards. In a move, President Trump said, "We'll reduce car prices, but will also anger the environmental groups." The administration is revoking California's authority to set strict fuel economy standards. Trump announced the move Wednesday, saying the decision was made in order to produce far less expensive cars for the consumer, while making cars safer at the same time. Trump says California cities destroy themselves with homelessness. This will lead to more production because of its pricing and safety advantage, and will also due to the fact that older, highly polluting cars will be replaced by new, extremely environmental friendly cars, Trump tweeted Wednesday morning. California's authority to set its own emission standards tougher than the federal government's goes back a waiver issued by Congress during the passage of the Clean Air Act in 1970. The state has long pushed automakers to adopt more fuel-efficient passenger vehicles that emit less pollution. A dozen states and the District of Columbia also follow California's fuel economy standards. The Trump administration's decision to revoke the waivers, touching off what is sure to be another high-profile legal fight with the Golden State. In anticipation of the move, California's Attorney General Xavier Becerra said Tuesday that the administration's actions will hurt both the U.S. automakers and American families. He said California would fight the administration in federal court. So let's talk about that. It's going to hurt American families when you tell a poverty-stricken family who's driving a car that's from the 70s or the 60s or the 80s or the 90s that's falling apart because that's what they can afford, and you're going to not just tax them, you're going to give them a ticket. You're going to tell them they need to fix their car, and until they fix their car, they can't drive to get to work under your laws. But by the president saying, no, you're not gonna make it harder for the poverty-stricken families. Here's my thing with California. Your homeless rate is through the roof. You then say plastics are bad, which I agree, plastics are bad. So you ban the plastic straws. What have you done to fix your homeless population or your drug population? What have you done to get the criminals off the streets? You have some of the strictest laws, but then you have some of the dumbest laws when it comes to your drug addicts. And, I got plenty of friends that live in California. They go, oh, man, Leroy, you got to move out here. You got to move out here. No, I'm not going to move out there, and I never will. I like the state of Georgia. I was born in Georgia. I love the state of South Carolina. That's where my family's from. My house is in Aiken. My hunting property is in Aiken. I'm not going anywhere. To sit here and say, hey man, if you move to California, you're going to immediately be a felon with all your firearms. Yeah, pass. Hard pass. Like, I'm not going to move to Aiken, or I'm not going to move to California to save my life. Going to move on to the MLB. The Atlanta Braves took 2 of the 3 from the Nationals. That's 5 of the 7 against the National League East rivals this month, as Mike Soroka outdueled Max Scherzer on Friday with 6 one-hit innings, and Mike Fluence continues to pitch his way into the postseason rotation as he gave up 4 hits and 1 run in 6 innings Saturday. Nick Markakis also returned from his fractured wrist and went 2 for 4, 4 for 5, and 1 for 4 in the 3 games. Ronald Acuna Jr., watch. He's at 39 home runs, 36 stolen bases after picking up 2 of each this weekend. I really want to see the Braves go to the World Series. And, I know I'm a 90s, a 90s kid. I was born in the 80s, but, kindergarten was 1990. I know it's going to make some of y'all feel old. But I would love to see the Braves play either the Yankees, the Indians, or the Twins in the World Series. Mainly for this one reason, because I watched the Twins beat my Braves. I watched the Yankees beat my Braves. Just like I watched Toronto beat my Braves. And, most of the players on the Atlanta Braves, the younger guys, they're not going to remember that stuff. And I highly doubt they're sitting there going, we got to get it back. But I'd love to see it happen. I love baseball. To me, there's no game greater than baseball. There's no game tougher than the NHL. And I know there's plenty of guys out there, well, football's tough. No, hockey's tough. Hockey's the one sport where you'll see somebody get injured and stay out there on the ice. One of my favorite stories that I tell any of my friends that don't know anything about hockey. A couple of years ago, the Boston Bruins were in the Stanley Cup, and then there was a player by the name of Thomas Campbell, and he had a puck hit him in his left shin, and it fractured. Well, they don't just stop the play on the ice for an injured player. It keeps going, especially if, the opposing team is almost about to score a goal. And here's this guy limping around, he's diving down, he's blocking shots, and this goes on for about 4 to 5 minutes. And he pulls himself back up. He slowly skates over to the bench, and he's out of the game. And then at the end of the game, they announced that this guy had a compound fracture to his leg. And, he stayed out there with that injury. You're not going to see that in baseball. Like the toughest guy in baseball in the 90s was Cal Ripken. Cal Ripken would play with broken hand, broken fingers, broken toe. Today's athlete, especially today's athlete, if a guy has turf toe, he doesn't play football for 8 months. If a guy has a contusion on his arm in baseball, he's out. But hockey, they will just go to town on one another. It's like comparing boxing to UFC. To me, boxing, once you've watched the Ultimate Fighting Championship, UFC, when it was first started, I remember people were like, oh my God, those guys are just beating the crap out of each other. And, I'd agree with you. Forrest Griffin, Brock Lesnar back in the day. Boxing was, for me, entertaining, like when you had Evander Holyfield, Mike Tyson, George Foreman, watching some of the old Muhammad Ali fights. Boxing's just not there anymore. I can't get into boxing. I would rather see somebody just almost bare knuckle box, because that's what it is in the UFC. They barely have, these gloves on their hands, and they're just beating the tar out of one another, kicking, doing submissions. It's like wrestling, those martial arts and boxing all combined. It's more entertaining. It is. But to sit here and say, well, football's tough. No, hockey's tough, buddy. And hockey starts in just a couple more weeks. I love October. October's when my hockey starts. I get to watch my Dallas Stars, my Boston Bruins. That's just like, I'll miss baseball after the postseason. I do love football, but I love college football more than I love pro football. And, of the pro football teams, I'm a huge Patriots fan, but, I do root for the Jaguars because of my dad. And, when we lived in Jacksonville, Jacksonville had just started their team in 95 when we moved there. And, that's how I ended up being a Jaguars fan and a Patriots fan. But my dad was a huge Atlanta Falcons fan. And ever since my dad passed away in February of 2018, I do find myself more and more watching the Falcons because I miss my dad. But when it comes to the NFL, I just, with the kneeling and, as a veteran, I'm going to tell you, I really don't care that somebody wants to protest something. That's what I fought for. But I would prefer you do it when you're standing at a podium. And why I say that is, if you really do care about your community, you're going to talk about your community and promote the things going on within your community, within the U.S., when you're standing there in front of a podium with cameras on you. Don't sit there and, protest kneeling, just to kneel. And then when the mic's on you, you're not doing anything. During the off season, you're not doing anything within your communities. And that was, one of the talks I had with when it came to, what do you think about Kaepernick? And, my biggest speech on the Kaepernick was, where was the injustice? Where was he cared about anything when he was the starting quarterback? He didn't do it. He didn't care. But magically, when he was announced that he wasn't going to start, he was going to be the backup, he grew the hair out, he took the knee, started talking about injustice, all this and this and this. Well, if you truly felt that way, why didn't you do it when you were starting the quarterback? Because my personal belief, and this is just me, the only reason I think he did it was because the cameras weren't on him. And I know I'm going to take some flack for saying that. But, the truth is what the truth is. And, my dad always said, if it looks like a duck, walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, 9 times out of 10 it's a duck. And for me, that's him. He wasn't a great quarterback, but, under the Michigan coach that they had, he gave him a chance. And when the new head coach came in there, he went, no, I'm going to go with someone better. That's just like if I believe if he was still in the league, he wouldn't be a starter. He'd be a backup. And suing the league over the fact that, you're not starting is just stupid. You're not Tom Brady. You're not Troy Aikman. You're not Dak Prescott. You're not Jimmy Garoppolo. There's a lot of quarterbacks that were in their prime that are no longer in their prime, and I don't think Kaepernick would be the saving grace to any team. Like, the Saints lost Drew Brees. The Steelers lost Ben Roethlisberger. I just don't see Kaepernick getting a phone call and somebody saying, we need you, buddy, because they don't. There's plenty of other quarterbacks in the league that can do a better job than Colin Kaepernick. And, when you sit there and say, well, I think he's a great guy, I don't. I think, he's one of those, stars that is only out to make himself feel better and look better. But it is what it is. And, I know some of y'all are going to give me flack over it. Did anybody watch Corey Lewandowski's interview yesterday at the Pentagon? Because if you didn't, man, I'm telling you, you were in for a treat. The Democrats tried blasting him on everything they possibly could. And he just berated them. He had one Democrat who basically had a rant, and then another Democrat said, "Are you going to answer the question?" And he answered back with, "What was the question? It was more of a rant. I'll hold you in contempt." Anytime a Democrat asked him something, it was just a, "Well, can you show me where it says that in a report?" Well, you're not answering the question. No, I've already done over 20 hours worth of testimonies. Show me in the Mueller report where any of your accusations are. Well, that doesn't matter. It does matter. They spent over $43 million of the taxpayers' money to find out nothing happened. There's more evidence that supports that the Clinton Foundation, along with Hillary, did a lot of corrupt things. Which, if I disappear or magically commit suicide in the next couple of days, it's probably because I'm on the radio talking about the Clintons. That's a joke for any of you who can't figure that out. There's no need to, send me a bunch of emails complaining that I said that. It's a joke. But the Ludowski, interview yesterday, I watched a lot of it, and I'm just sitting there going, I don't want to say the wrong thing, but if I was one of those Democrats on the board yesterday, I would have sat there and gone, "How do you put your pants on?" Just curious. For those mighty big kahunas you got down there. If you enjoy listening to the Leroy Brown Talk Show, I encourage you to sponsor us. And you can do so by contacting us at 706-738-9191. Say you would like to sponsor the Leroy Brown Talk Show, and we'll plug your company or your business throughout the day. We'll also say it while we're on the show. If you'd like to have a certain topic brought up on the show, you can email us at the Leroy Brown Talk Show at gmail.com. You can follow us and watch most of our interviews or our shows on Facebook as well. And, if you want to get on the Facebook, it's Leroy Brown Talk Show. We're also on Instagram and on Twitter. We're on YouTube. I enjoy being able to have this platform to talk about veteran issues along with sports, along with news. If you'd like to listen to the podcast, you can by going to 929soulmine.com. You can also listen on the go through the TuneIn app, and all you have to do is go to 929 WYDO, and we should be on at 8 o'clock p.m. Sometimes we're on at 7. So, if we're not on at 7, I would just say, just wait till 8, and we'll probably come on then. We do have a guest coming on Friday. His name's Jared Goldman. He's currently a cop, and he's going to talk about some of the things that he's doing, along with being a Marine, along with his goals of becoming a sheriff for Aiken County. But, the big thing is, I've already told him, being a vet, I plan on giving him a rip it to make him feel good. And, I always enjoy giving rip-its to vets when they come on the show just to get a laugh out of them. But, anybody that deploys overseas, they're going to know that where that's coming from. I also want to give a quick shout out to John Coombs of Aiken, South Carolina. He's deployed in Iraq right now, and we're going to put together a nice little care package for him. If you would like to put something in this care package before we send it out to him, by all means, give us a call at 706-738-9191, along with get in touch with us at Leroy Brown Talk Show at gmail.com or on Facebook or Instagram, and we'll throw whatever items you want to throw into the care package to send to him and his unit deployed. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Leroy Brown Talk Show. As always, CSRA, remember, if your main chute doesn't deploy, you have your reserve on standby.